Brother Teacher again. I have a curious question. Has anyone out there ever donated blood or blood plasma specifically? Well, I have. Um, Many years ago, and I do mean many years ago, when I was a young man, uh, I got into the uh, habit of going to the blood bank to make some additional money. And at this particular time, I was a young man who uh, had a child and even two children at some point with my wife at that time. And in order to uh, sort of add some extra money to our already existing income, and I was working part time at the time, and just struggling in my early 20s to mid 20s, uh, living on my own or our own at the time. I found out about the blood donation center, and I went and checked it out. When I found out that they would give you X amount of dollars, I think $25 for your first donation, and then I believe it was somewhere around $15 thereafter, and you were only allowed to go so many times. Uh, I would do that, and I felt as though I was doing something good for humanity at the same time. So I really didn't have a problem, having my blood taken. Now, I have given, let me clarify, I have given, especially when I was in the military, in the reserve aspect, I gave blood free to the blood center, for those people who needed the blood type that I had. Uh, Never got paid for that, but I'm speaking more specifically right now about blood plasma. Now, I donated blood plasma probably at about maybe three different centers over that period of time that I was donating. And it seemed to me that the uh, experiences that I had became a little bit more frightful, for lack of a better word. And what I mean by that is this: uh, having good intentions. Now, I was not poor on the street or on the verge of being on the street by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt like, if this is a viable means to make, $20, $30 just for a couple hours of my time, then why not? But there were some things that I noticed about the blood plasma center that ultimately discouraged me from wanting to continue that. Number one, and I don't have this written down, so I'm just shooting off the hip. But number one, I began to realize that most of the people, the vast majority of the people that were sitting in this large room were blacks. There were some whites. That was one, the majority of the people. Now, that's every blood plasma center that I have ever attended. The majority of the so-called patients or clients were black and basically poor white people. That's number one. Number two, I experienced that the workers needed much to be desired. Now, I've always been a person that observed things very well and scrutinized things. Even if I didn't speak out about it, I was holding a mental thought about it at least. But I began to notice the conversation of the people that worked in the facility. And I saw workers come and I saw them go. And I even saw workers in training and had a person from time to time come and stick me, if you will, to draw my blood and plasma. That was a person learning. Now, what I realized about these employees was that these were not people who went to college. that studied this craft. These people learned how to draw blood at the center on the spot. They had training for a few weeks, and then they were put on the floor to start the process of drawing blood from the clients. And this disturbed me. And not just that, but the fact that sometimes they would make a mistake, and sometimes they would make several mistakes when they were sticking people in the arm trying to find your vein. Now, mind you, this can happen anywhere. It has happened in hospitals, but this happened pretty frequently in the blood plasma centers. And I'm not just responding from an individual who was, I won't say victim of, but I'm not responding as someone who just experienced that alone, but I watched the people around me who had issues as well. And I've seen employees misstick, if you will, some of the clients. And I would see hematomas or swelling of blood, if you will, under the tissue in the people's arms. And sometimes the doctor that they had on call that was working at the particular center, he would be called in, to attend to the person. And then the person would have to cease giving a donation for that day, or they would do the other arm. And I have even seen and or witnessed people being mistuck in both arms, and the person that was trying to get a donation or a blood, a financial benefit, if you will, for lack of a better word, that particular day, who was trying to donate, they got frustrated because they had to be turned down, and all because someone didn't stick them with the needle correctly. Of course, there was always an excuse behind it. We couldn't find a vein, and it's difficult, to see your vein, and you're tensing up, all of this kind of crap. Come to find out later on, of course. But getting back to the employees, I oftentimes would be sitting in the chair. Now, mind you, this room was really large, and you had approximately 50 to 60 people capacity in this room, 50 to 60 chairs. And the chairs were back to back like recliners, of course, and there were 2 or 3 rows of these chairs, and sometimes they would be really packed to capacity. And that kind of came out in my mind as being a little too impersonal at a place like that. Felt like sheep gone to the slaughter, so to speak. Not to waste your time, but I'm trying to get to the point. But I saw a video several months back where a guy was talking about his bad experiences at the blood plasma center, where even years after he stopped donating, he still had pain in his arm from the site where he would get his needle stuck in. And oftentimes they would stick you in the same place after it had healed, the site that they stuck you in. And if you came back a week or 2 later, they would stick you basically in the same spot. I mean, only so many times you can be stuck in the same spot and not have some trauma, if you will. And I experienced the same thing. And I attributed that to the blood bank. And I know from my own experience, a couple of times when I was stuck in the arm and they missed the vein, and they moved the needle back and they reinserted, and they moved it back and reinserted, and this was painful. Mind you, this is a large gauge needle used to draw blood. We're not talking about an insulin needle. We're talking about a large gauge needle. Anyway, it hurts. And I would question myself sometimes, why are you doing this, Reginald? Why are you letting these people stick this needle in you, just for 15 or 20 bucks? And so ultimately, I stopped donating plasma because I really didn't have to have the money. That's one. And I know I skipped this, but let me get back to the employees that worked there. As I said, they were trained on location at the facility. 3 to 4 weeks, whatever it took, and then they let them go or loose onto the floor. And I would hear these conversations that they would have either at the spot that I was in or adjacent chairs when they were taking care of other customers. And they would say, girl, I'm going out tonight, I'm going to get high. That's one. I have even smelled marijuana on several occasions from several employees, and many times from the same employees. I would see their demeanor, and they were talking about, I'm high right now. And this was one of the turning points in my making the decision that I made about not donating blood and or blood plasma, at least at those types of facilities where the public just walks in, you fill out some information and a waiver, if you will, and then you sit in the chair and then they just have at you. So this video is to encourage you. If you're down on your luck, if you don't have very much money, don't go to the blood plasma center or any place that's going to stick a needle in you and draw out your vital body fluids, for research or whatever they maintain that they're using your blood plasma for. And this is the crazy thing. And you can do the research in your own time, do your own due diligence. Understand this. I have found in my lifetime, not just in respect to this, but I'm talking about this particular subject of donating blood plasma now, but I have found out in my lifetime that most, and I do mean virtually 99.9% of all of the major corporations always give you a small stipend when they are taking the majority from you in terms of benefits. Go to a bank, for example. You open up a savings account, you get less than 1% interest on a savings or a checking account that draws interest. The bank gets 200 or 300% off of your money. They don't have to keep all of your money on deposit. Once you make $1,000 deposit, in other words, the bank is only by law responsible for $100 in the bank. They take the majority of your money and they reinvest your money and my money in the stock market, and they make money off of your deposits in that way, and they give us less than 1% interest, but they're making hundreds and thousands of dollars off of each individual customer in their facility. That's my point, and I hope you get that point. Corporations are not trying to help you on some humane level. Corporations are trying to drain as much as they possibly can of your finances from you and give you the least in return. So back to the blood bank or the blood plasma center. They are no different. They make thousands of dollars off of your plasma and you get $25. But if that's what you signed up for, you really can't complain. I'm just making you aware. The blood plasma centers make thousands of dollars off of the blood plasma. For example, if you or I walked into the blood plasma center today and we were a member, if you want to call it that, customer of that center, once they take that bag of plasma, you get $25 off of that one bag of plasma. How much do you think they get? $25. Even exchange? Not at all. They get several hundreds of dollars off of your blood plasma because your blood plasma is a high commodity on the market. They use it for a plethora of things in the pharmaceutical industry. That one bag of plasma. As I said, you can do the research on your own, but does that tell you something? Why are we prostituting ourselves to these industries? So I began to say earlier, if you need money, if I were you, and even if you're currently going to a blood plasma center and you're making a few dollars every couple weeks or what have you, please reconsider doing that and try temporary service. Try some odd jobs, or cutting somebody's grass or shoveling someone's snow during this time of the year right now, when we do actually get snow wherever you live at. Try to find some other humane, as I mentioned before, or some more dignified way of making money, as opposed to allowing some strangers that you don't know inflict injury on your body to make money. And I have a scar on my arm today from one of the sites that they drew blood from many years ago now, and I had experienced for years pain in my same arm from a bad experience that I had at the blood plasma center. And they were sticking me, and then it scarred over, and then it just was never the same. It was as though the blood was finding difficulty going through the vein anymore in that particular site. And one remarkable thing about our human body is that it has the ability to repair itself, even though it may not do it right away. But over time, if you are taking the necessary precautions and eating right and exercising and things of this nature, your body can and will take care of itself. But with that being said, I would discourage anyone from donating plasma if they didn't have to. Now, if it is a reputable company like Hoxworth Blood Center, for example, and Shriners Burns Institute, and someone needed some blood, or if it was a family member of mine, I would donate blood in a heartbeat, and I have done that in time past. But just to say, oh, I want 15 or 20 extra dollars in my pocket, I'm a big boy now. I'm way beyond that mindset. And as I said before, it was just to have some extra dollars in my pocket, to help my family along, to take us out to a restaurant or whatever it was at that time, being young. And it was not necessarily something that I had to do. But there are a lot of people, who actually depend upon the blood centers or the blood plasma centers, and they go there religiously. They're known by name, and they know the personnel by name and so forth. I don't want to be in that situation, and I don't want to encourage anyone else to subject themselves to that type of torture. And that's really what it is, because ultimately down the road, you could potentially have some issues with your veins or circulation in your arm, and it could cause or exacerbate that problem to be something much worse down the road. So this was my experience at the blood plasma center when I was younger. And again, I don't want to sound harsh, but if you can do something more dignified that would allow you to maintain your own dignity, self-dignity, and worth, I would do something else. Collect aluminum cans or something, ask someone in the neighborhood in which you live for some odd job to do, and do it very well, and maybe you can go on to you a part-time job from that. But this was Brother Teacher. I'm curious to know what your feelings are about this particular subject on donating blood plasma. If I were you, again, I wouldn't do it. So let me know what your comments are in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video. So long.